countries thus far and has engagements with such agencies as Google, Microsoft, Cisco, and Amazon. She's the recipient of the Happiness Award from the British Parliament in 2019. And she's been appointed as a Goodwill Ambassador by the World Psychiatric Association. Her discussions include the path to forgiveness and healing, recognizing and accepting, which is filled with compassion for self and others, the beginning of recognizing the path to emotional health and happiness. She's to deliver a feature address here in Trinidad and Tobago on the topic, the path to forgiveness and healing. This is to take place at the Center of Excellence in Macoya on Thursday, September 19th from 7 to 8:30 p.m. Mr. Anand Singh is a member of the Brahma Kumaris Raja Yoga Center in Trinidad and Tobago. He's agreed to talk with us on this issue. Good to see you, sir. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you so much. Good morning to you and the viewership of WESN. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah. Okay, so I want to start. Yes, go ahead.
No, I think happy to talk about Sister Shivani's visits and give a little insight to your viewership and so on today.
Yes. All right, so let me ask you this. The path to forgiveness and healing. To how much you know about it and what can you tell us as we begin this discussion on this lecture that is up ahead?
Yes, this topic was carefully thought of and chosen as something we thought that would be very relevant to our society and to the conditions under which we go through every day. We do believe that as each human being we live with some sort of resentment or bitterness or hold grudges or possibly can't move on from certain things that have happened, and learning to forgive is really about releasing that type of toxicity and negativity. Forgiveness is really for you. It is not about the other person. Sometimes we feel that we don't want to forgive because it releases the other person, but actually forgiveness releases us from that pain and sorrow and negativity. And forgiveness is also not about who is right or wrong. Because sometimes we hold on and we think, well, I'm right, that person is wrong, I'll never forgive. But when we hold on to that negativity, acidity, it destroys us inside. We are the ones who remain unhappy. Our bodies become unhealthy. We are the ones who end up with an ulcer or cancers. And so forgiveness is really about us choosing to live a better, richer life by releasing these things that are holding us back. And Sister Shivani has been known to be a very inspirational speaker. Her YouTube views are about 975 million, which is an attestation to the way she touches people's lives, the way she reaches people's hearts and inspires a change and inspires the strength and inspires that step that we need to take to go one step forward into a better well-being. So this is a great, great event for not only if we're struggling with forgiveness, but the messages and the wisdom, the simplicity that you will receive will absolutely be beneficial to all aspects of your life.
All right, let me ask you, so this event, I want to come back and find out about how did the organization get her to agree to come here, given the schedule that she probably maintains, given the fact that we're seeing here that she has delivered 4,300 lectures like this in her lifetime as well. How did you all get her to come to Trinidad and Tobago, as far as you know?
Well, this has been long in making. The request has been long, many years in. Sister Shivani to be on, different cable TV platforms. We're in Trinidad. about 20 years and so ago, and people were asking, can we have her here? Can she come to Trinidad? That time it was a dream, aspiration, and through her planning and through our rallying and trying to get into her schedule, she's actually planned a U.S., Caribbean, Panama trip where she's actually been able to plug in a trip to Trinidad and Guyana in this. So we are very, very privileged and very happy that she'll finally be able to come to Trinidad. And this, I expect this to be that one-time event. I'm not sure if we will see Shivani in Trinidad in person again. So this is really that once in a event or once in a lifetime opportunity to experience her physically and in person on September 19th at 7 p.m. at the Center of Excellence.
Yeah, I know you have a clip that you want us to take a look at to promote the thing some more. We will do that in a moment. But I just want to ask the question of and continue with some of what you said in the beginning, the question of people being disposed to forgive. It doesn't have anything to do with who is right and who is wrong. In your own experience, how have you been able to, if you have, been able to convince people of the value and the benefit of just putting things aside, regardless of, unmindful of who may be wrong and how you may have been wronged by somebody else or other people?
Many times, I would say, probably unfortunately, or as life progresses, people tend to reach that realization when the pain and the self destruction, if you want to use a word like that, has become so much that there is no other option but I need to learn to. Generally, before that, people tend to still, battle with it a little until they reach the point that I need to stop. I think I need to take care of me. And that's when they begin to be more open to the forgiveness. In my own experience, um, I found that forgiveness is actually, it starts with a decision to forgive, but you don't decide. Forgiveness doesn't happen through the decision. Forgiveness happens through a healing process. And the outcome of healing is actually forgiveness. It's not that I can say today, I would like to forgive Andy, so Andy, you're forgiven. It doesn't really work that way. Mentally, we may think that we have, but inside, the feelings, the hurt, the pain, the resentment is still there because we haven't resolved it. We haven't released it. We haven't healed it. We haven't changed our perspective on it. And that's what the healing process is. And that's why the topic is called the path to forgiveness, because it is a journey of learning to heal, and which will take you to the outcome that would be healing, which where we are not jaded, we are happy, we are open to the world, living in harmony. And I'll give a quick definition of healing.
Yeah.
Healing means to go through the storm, coming out on the other side changed. So it is not avoiding the storm, actually. Healing is to go through the storm, to allow the difficulties to change you, and you come out on the other side changed. And that's where forgiveness lives. That's where forgiveness happens at the other end of healing.
There are people who talk about, use this phrase, I will forgive but I will never forget. How do you put that into the mix, and what are they missing, if they're missing something in that equation?
Now, there could be two interpretations of that. One is the usual one, and I'll go into that. The other one is that we forgive and heal. We should not forget in the sense that the learning from it should carry on. That we have learned lessons. We've learned how to, for example, we've learned how to set and maintain healthy boundaries. We've learned how to see red flags and act on it. We've learned how to keep ourselves properly. These are lessons that we would have learned through that event that created that forgiveness. However, most of us tend to mean that I'll forgive you, but remember, I will, I have you in mind, I know who you are. And that's not truly forgiveness. That means that you haven't healed because you're still carrying that, you're still jaded. And when I say jaded, I mean that sometimes let's take a very simple example. Let's say that we have lent money to someone and the person has not repaid us. And so we then end up saying, well, in Trini language, you see me, I'm never going to lend anyone money anymore. That's a jaded position. That means that you have been negatively affected and impacted by it, and that negative perception is carrying on through your life. A healing and a forgiveness outcome would mean that I have learned to make better judgments of character and people. And so if I need to help someone in need, I have learned to be more discerning. And so it's not that I'm going to hold back or now curtail my generosity or inherent goodness, but I have now learned through the past of how to discern better as to who is more worthy of my assistance. And that is the outcome of forgiveness, and that is what healing means, that I have truly resolved those bitterness and I have understood it and I have learned the lessons and I've come out on the other side. But if we say I won't forget in a jaded way or in a way that I hold you in my mind, we have not healed and we have not forgiven.
So it takes a certain kind of, a certain kind of unlearning and learning a new approach to life to get there. You just can't wake up one morning or is it possible to wake up one morning and decide, well, look, I'm going to be different. I won't hold grudges. I won't hold back on people who I figured did me wrong. The California now in which the fellow says, a farmer nappy, who do me wrong, I will do them right. Are those just words unless you understand how to treat with this subject?
Mm-hmm. I think you can wake up one morning and begin the journey and decide. Sometimes it's said that 50% of success lies in the mind. It means that once I decide to do something, half of the work is done because I've gotten over the mental psychological hurdle. But the healing actually takes time. Change does not happen, and it depends on the situation. If it's really small, we can get past it. But if it's a deeper cut, it takes time to heal through that. Like even as our bodies get injured, it heal overnight. It needs time, it needs medicine, it needs care, so that that wound seals, heals, and sometimes it's constant. You don't even know that there was a wound. In the same way, forgiveness is that process of changing the way I think about things. Changing, for example, from feeling that I'm a victim, that it's always me. Why does this happen to me, for example? And changing that into more a hero mindset, for example. And these are examples of where the healing process begins to change. the way I not only see life, but it will also begin to change the way I see myself and the way I also love myself. That takes me to that feeling of grace. So I would not say that it's an overnight thing. I think the decision can happen overnight and half the battle is won, but a process needs to take place that we really begin to fill our minds with a different perspective. And you know, we've used this so commonly. Let's change our perspective. I prefer to say, let's fill our minds with truth and wisdom. Because changing your perspective could sound pretty superficial. Like, okay, let me just start thinking differently. You don't just want to think differently. You want to think accurately. You want to think truthfully. You want to think things that are actually the way they are. That helps me to see things with less spaghetti of our emotions and with less confusion. So the mind becomes clearer. We become more graceful. We become more mindful of our feelings and our thoughts. And we become more discerning of our actions. And that's where healing truly takes place. You become a better person, changed and transformed.
And how do you work around the idea that some people have that forgiveness is weakness and that you have to demonstrate that people can't take you for a fool, feel that you're soft and so on. So sometimes we put up a strong sort of veneer among ourselves to demonstrate to people, well, you can't mash my corn, because if you do, this is what is likely to happen to you. What is wrong about that?
Yes, we tend to think that, you know, forgiveness might mean that I let people walk all over me, or I just roll over, or we think that being peaceful is passive. But actually, peace is a power. It is not a passive thing. We actually actively practice peace, which is, it does not mean that I have to simply turn my head or walk
Or
away.
what do you say, turn the other
Part of
cheek?
our
You know, some people talk like that, turn the other cheek. Some people say they would, some people say they'll never turn the other cheek.
Yes. I think it's very contextual about where we turn the other cheek. I think we learn using the power of peace to stand up for ourselves. And when we use the power of peace, we learn to stand up for ourselves and to draw boundaries that are healthy and non-confrontational, non-aggressive. It doesn't mean that we're simply walking away, but we are learning skills like communication skills, how to communicate what I feel in a way that's understood, in the way that's accepted, in the way that the boundaries are drawn. We are prone to being very impulsive in the way we communicate. And so, for example, when I want to draw boundaries, we tend to use language that are very confrontational, like, why do you do that to me? So it's a blaming language that we use. And you know, if I use a language like that on you and said, you always do this, and why do you do this to me? Um, then what I'm doing is I'm accusing and I'm blaming. And so the receiving end of that is going to start defending because it's an attack. And so communication doesn't happen. Actually, what happens is a war. I'm accusing, you're defending. And there is no communication. That's not the power of peace. That's impulsive. When we learn to garner within ourselves a little bit of silence, a little bit of stability in our mind, a little bit of more mental power, and we use that to communicate, the probability, and I'm using the word probability because we cannot control another human being or their responses, but the probability is higher that they listen, that they have heard, whether they acknowledge or not, but you have stood your ground, you have drawn your boundaries, and it is up to you from that point onwards to maintain your boundary. It is not up to the other person. Many times we want to see a change immediately in the other person to validate that I have made my point. We don't need that type of validation. Validation comes from our actions, that we stand by what our boundaries are, we stand by what our decisions are, and we move forward in like that. Of course, it may also mean that I use external help. For example, if there are situations that you need external help with, that you call on help to say, I need help to get to be free from this difficult situation, and so on. And so there are ways that we use to help ourselves in our situation in conjunction with changing the way we are approaching it. And so when we say turn the other cheek, I would not exactly literally mean that, someone slaps you, so let them slap you back. I would say turn the other cheek means that we should turn the way we see the situation, and we should turn the way we face the situation. So instead of facing it in the way I think this way, I face it with my new understanding and my new wisdom and my new approach to this, to what's happening. And, just back to your Farmer Nappy song, if you do me wrong, I'll do you right. That's great. That's aspirational. That's, a great anecdote. But before you can get to that, you must be healed. Otherwise, it's going to backfire and it's going to be pretty superficial, and you're going to want something in return for doing it.
Yeah, I want to ask you a little bit about, let's take I want to come back locally to the situation we're facing here with crime being what it is, and the distress that more and more of us are being made to go through. Barin, how we treat that in the context of what we're talking about here. But I wanted to go to let's say in the Middle East. And when I think about, some years ago there was a man named Anwar Sadat who was the president of Egypt, and long before we were born, this matter is taking place, has been going on between the people who occupy that part of Earth. And he wrote in his book, he had decided that he was going to go to Israel, and I think the president of Israel then was a man named Menachem Begin, and he went to see him because he felt it was necessary to do that, to cut a pathway through what was happening, which is still happening, to find a means by which he could get peace. And he wrote a book afterwards, and he said in the book that he expected to be killed because of the courageous action he took in leaving Egypt and going to meet the president of Israel. And in fact, he was killed in a parade on October 6th, whatever the year was, 1981 or so. One of his troops under his command, left the parade and went up to him in the stand and shot him to death. I always think about that in terms of trying to see how we could talk about how there could be lasting peace in that part of the world. In other parts of the world, there's all kinds of conflict. But I try to look at that in terms of trying to find out how we could ever experience, as a daughter of mine likes to talk about, peace in the Middle East.
Yes. I'll bring this back to, we have a fundamental principle and belief that world transformation takes place through self-transformation. And I'll give you a story of Chicken Little. Chicken Little used to, the story, the sky is falling, the sky is falling.
Yes.
So everyone is scampering around, the sky is falling, the sky is falling. And Chicken Little, what he did is that he lay on his back and he had his two legs up. And so people asked him, what are you doing? Are you crazy? The sky is falling. And he said, I am doing what I can. I am doing what I can. And so sometimes we get so overwhelmed by the problems of the world that we give up and we don't do what we can. The starting point is to do what you can in your life first, in your family, in your community, and let that domino effect happen. There's something called the butterfly effect, which, there's a saying that a butterfly flaps its wings in New York and a tsunami happens in Japan. Basically, what that means is that every act that we perform creates an energetic ripple and creates this domino effect that is connected. And so we may not be able to say, I can strategize something that will solve peace in the Middle East, because we may not have the means to do it. But we can, each one of us, solve peace in our own lives and in our families, because that's what we can. And the power of each finger giving that corporation, is underrated. And so my advice would be to do as much as you can, but start with you. Don't be overwhelmed. Yes, the world is quite an overwhelming place. Our country is sometimes overwhelming. Our own community is overwhelming. But what can I do that I can give a contribution of peace, a contribution of goodness, even through energy, even through my thoughts and my actions, that will help create a ripple effect? And can you imagine if a certain critical mass, if you want to call it that, of people would do this in the world? What a transformation and change that will make.
All right, you broke up a little bit there in the end, and I think we have a promo for the event that is coming up, and let's see if we could get it to run, and we come back on the other side of that.
Thank you.
So you're watching.
Amplia's coming back to the October 19th September from 7 p.m. to 8 a.m. to speak on the path to forgiveness and the delay. Tickets are free, however, online registration is required at ticketgateway.com. Patrons must be seated by 6 p.m. For more information.
Speak into this event that is coming up, path to forgiveness and happiness. Sister Shivani. I saw, just got a glimpse at the audience there. It's massive. It was massive. Where was that, you know? Not sure which one of her engagements that was from.
Unfortunately, I can't pinpoint where that is, because she has been in so many large auditoriums. Not quite sure where that one took place. There are snippets across the world in this video of Sister Shivani. But imagine yourself sitting on September 19th at 7. We are asking guests to please be seated at 6 p.m. because we are expecting a couple thousand of attendees. We were already in the thousands of registrations. So please be seated by 6 on September 19th. It's a Thursday at Center of Excellence for this inspiring event with Sister Shivani. You are asked to register. The event is free, but to help us manage numbers, and so you are asked to please register at ticketgateway.com. Or go to the Brahma Kumari's St. Augustine Facebook page, where you'll see the flyers and the videos and the QR code, so that you can register yourself, your friends, and your families.
You think it's going to be a sellout? You think it's going to be a sellout?
I think it will, and I think it should, for the type of work that she brings and the way she can truly, share insights in such a very simple way that, really inspires us. I think it would be a shame if it's not.
Well, you say you're already registration is already in the hundreds, in the several hundreds,
Yeah,
thousands.
already in the thousand. We've already crossed 1,500 registrations, heading towards that. We are looking for, we can accommodate 3,000 plus attendees. So do out to register. If you're having trouble registering, you can call 737-1779. That's 737-1779, and that person will register for you.
All right, 737-1779. I want to ask you, as we come to wrap up in a short while, to what extent this is happening probably at the most propitious time for us here in Trinidad and Tobago, an event such as this?
Well, there is a saying that nothing happens until it's the right time. We did not plan this date around anything. It's completely around Sister Shivani's availability, and I think that it's quite opportune, and it's a great time to bring that topic to our country. We would like to see people in our country, in our communities, live happier, healthier lives. It is our pure wish. It is the work of the Brahma Kumaris, because whatever we offer is free of charge, because we want to offer to the community a way of thinking and tips and inspiration and wisdom that will enrich your lives. And that is our wish for the country. That's why we are bringing her. We're happy to have her, and we're offering this free of charge for you.
Just before we go, let me ask you, so what causes you, if at all, to get angry?
Can you repeat that, please?
Do you get angry, and for like what? So do you get angry, or you don't? Anger is not a friend of yours at all.
I would not be honest if I said that I don't get angry sometimes. But I would say that through the years of meditation and self transformation, that has reduced considerably. Like, there are very, very few things that I would say irritate me, because I have learned wisdom to process. I've learned ways of responding. I've learned actually to love myself so much more that I preserve my energy better. I've learned more compassion for others, which also allows others to express their feelings, and I understand where it's coming from. Impulsivity used to be the most challenging thing to me. I think I used to be very impulsive, and I acknowledged that. I understood that about myself, and I applied a journey of learning how to change that impulsivity into responsiveness, into the power of peace, into self-love, into all the things that I have learned in how I respond to life. So I would say today I'm a very, very different person from when I started this journey about 30 years ago. And anger is not something that I regularly experience. We are all human, and there are times that there are some buttons that still exist that becomes pressed. Sometimes I ask, like, what's the best way to not get your buttons pressed? And the answer is to have no buttons.
Thank you very much, sir, Mr. Anand Singh, member of the Brahma Kumaris Raja Yoga Center in Trinidad and Tobago. September 19th, a lecture by Sister Shivani at the Center of Excellence in Mokoya, The Path to Forgiveness and Healing. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much for having me. Have a great day.
Very welcome. This has been 10 Questions. I'm Andy Johnson. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. I could tell you what we'll have next time. We're talking about the issue of bipolarism with Nicole Alexander. Stay tuned for that. Stay with us here at WESN.
Tickets are free. However, online registration is required at ticketgateway.com. Patrons must be seated by 6 p.m. For more information, call 737-1779, 783-3051, or visit the Brahmakumaris St. Augustine Facebook page.
Are we ready to create a peaceful world?
WESN. Take some time for yourself or spend some time with the family at Sandy Point Village Hotel. Enjoy our various studio and suite apartments, self-contained with their own kitchenettes and Wi-Fi. We also have our famous 100-foot swimming pool and our beachfront restaurant, The Steak and Lobster Grill. And our location in Crown Point puts us near the center of activity from the nylon pool to the local nightlife. Call us and make your reservations at 639-8533, 389-2378, or email us at sandypointvillage